This is the CreaseCast.
All right, folks. Here we are on another issue of the CreaseCast. It's a bit of a sad one today, but you, our listener base, should know this and come to expect this from us, because since we've started together, Lachlan and I, we've seen multiple seasons get postponed. We've seen the U.S. Capitol invaded.
Oh, no.
And now we are seeing an institution get wiped off the face of the earth. And that was Bell Media today when they abruptly canceled the Halford and Bruff show 3 hours into their program.
Just
them. I'm sure there were some other stations across Canada that were also wiped out. But because I can't listen to three stations at once, for me, it was Halford and Bruff. 3 hours into their show, they aired a little program that said, tune in for a special announcement later. And that special announcement wasn't very special at all. It was miserable. And here we are to talk about that miserable announcement and the fallout from it. Lachlan, today really sucked for Vancouver sports fans as they see a station that is literally 3 years younger than you, right? You're 23?
I'm 23, 97 born. I believe TSN or Team 1040
Team 1040, 20 years ago.
01? 01?
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm 24 this year, so yes, that does... Yeah.
So your marginally older brother who's been there on your shoulder your entire life was just given the axe this morning.
Oh my God.
For me, this is brutal. This is terrible news. Like, for so many reasons. You and I share some mutual friends in the industry who were part-time employees at TSN 1040 and were wonderful show hosts who are now out of a job. There are countless hundreds of others across Canada who are now out of work. And there doesn't seem to be any sense behind it, which is the worst thing that can come out of this. And the dark side of you wants to just be like, this is purely out of corporate greed, and it's hard to see some kind of but actually that might make this easier to accept, but that's not the case. It's a mega corporation of Canada that has been taking the Canada Emergency Wage Subsidy in excess of hundreds of millions. They've taken government subsidies, like taxpayer subsidies, for the last several years while still reporting profits. And even after all of our hard-earned money went to them, they still decided to lay the axe on one of the most popular sports stations across Canada in TSN 1040. Lachlan, I saw this whole thing unfold live on my little radio player app. Where were you when the axe fell today?
In the bathroom. No. I was taking I got into work at 8:30. Nothing had happened before. I expected today to maybe be a news day. After, everything that happened with the Canucks in Montreal and Toronto over the last few days. So I was kind of keeping, tabs. Nothing new, obviously, when I got into work. And then I don't check my phone for about an hour. About 9:30, I take a break. I take a quick break, and I just open my phone and see all these people just talking about what happened, going what happened. Oh my God, 1040, and I don't realize what's happening until I see somebody else tweeting that it got shut down, in the middle of the day. And I was just, I was floored. Talk about coming out of left field. There was there was the whole, yes, Bell had been making cuts recently, but there was already talk that, no one had been affected because the cuts had all happened last week. They weren't going to cut more people. Nope, instead they just axed an entire station, and not just Vancouver's, Winnipeg's and Hamilton's as well.
Yeah.
In the middle of the day. Just in the middle of the show. And, which is just so stunning and such a, like, talk about just the most garbage way to send out a station that's meant so much to people over the last 20 years. I mean, we were going to talk about hockey today. We were going to talk about a lot of things today because there has been news to talk about. I mean,
there was
hell,
news.
This guy over here was on another podcast on Friday. That was really cool. And there's like all sorts of like, there are some good news things to talk about, but we can't today. Today is not the day to do it. There is more things that are more pressing in this market, and with people that we know and people who we call friends and colleagues, and as well as just for you guys who listen to our show and who listen to 1040 every single day for some of you for the last 20 years. Cody, I don't know how far back your relationship with 1040 goes. I know it's a little bit deeper than mine per se, but so I just wanted to I guess the best way to just kind of start is just talking about what 1040 meant to you and how you got started with that channel and what it meant to you as a person.
Man, I go back a decade with them. I used to listen to FM radio all the time, going to and from BCIT, and I just kind of got tired listening to the same old shit. And that's about the time I started listening to started watching hockey again. And I just kind of fell into 1040 somehow. I think I tweeted a picture. There was a Canucks decal on my warehouse forklift that had Team 1040 on it. And so I think at that time I was like, oh, I guess I'll listen to these guys. And just from there, it was pretty much okay, every morning, every drive in, it's going to be listen to this morning show. And then every drive home, I'm going to listen to the afternoon show with Sakaris and Price. And then flash forward to 2018 or 2017 or whatever it is, when I started writing about the Utica Comets. And after 6 months of writing, I get a DM from JD Burke, and he's like, hey, do you want to come on Rink Wide this Saturday? And I was like, I'm just some random guy writing about hockey. Why?
You must have me confused for some other Cody Severson.
Yes, surely you're lost, sir.
Sir.
Sir, I believe you're mistaken. But no, it wasn't a mistake. He legitimately was interested by what I was writing and was given the go-ahead by his producers and his program directors to bring on people that he thought, serviced his show and his program and what kind of stories he wanted to tell. And that kind of opened the door. That kind of got my name out there quite a bit. And then, a year later, I'm picked for the Botchford project. And then a month after that, I'm in studio with Rob Fay to talk about that experience. And again, just doors opening left, right, and center. And so the station's huge for me because it kind of exemplifies what Jason Botchford was trying to do with Harmon Dial and stuff like that. Creating that next wave of journalists and bright minds. Not that I'm any of those things, but but the idea of paying it forward and opening doors for people that otherwise wouldn't have a chance, and just trying to show them what the possibilities are and what they can do to get from point A to point B. And TSN 1040, it wasn't everybody's favorite station. Not everyone loved every show. I certainly didn't love every show, but they encourage their hosts and their team to inspire the market, and that's why they felt so close to me personally and to hundreds of thousands of others who tune to them every single day. And it hurts. It fucking hurts, man. That's a big loss. I don't know what I'm gonna do driving into work now and not listening to a bunch of Simpsons references from Halford and Bruff in the morning. What am I gonna do with my life? But what about you, man? You're just getting out of high school or elementary school, so maybe you're with them isn't.
I'm not 12 years old I'm not 12 years old like Quads is. I'm a little bit older.
By the way, shut up.
Happy birthday, Quads.
Happy big one too, bud.
Wow. Oh, such a big moment for Mazel Tov,
Mazel Tov, little guy.
Yeah. My story with 1040 goes back quite a long time ago. I remember when I was a kid. I had in my room. I had an alarm. I had like an AM/FM alarm clock,
Yeah.
and for years I mostly just listened to music and stuff when I was like really little, and that was like what I woke up to.
Mm.
But I always loved hockey. I always watched every game, but I noticed that my mom would always make me go to bed by like at the end of like the second period at the time, 'cause I was like 7, 8, whatever. At the time when I was in like elementary school, so I would never finish the game. And then I realized that hey, there's a sports station on 1040. When what I would do is I'd say okay, going to bed, turn off all the lights, put the alarm under my pillow with with 1040 on, listen to John Shorthouse and Tom Larshide call the end of the game. And I'm pretty sure my mom knew, because I'm definitely, the amount of times that I probably fell asleep while listening to the post game show or something is definitely more than zero. So but it meant something, that it was special, it was really special to me, because I always loved listening to the show, and I definitely tried to call in like times when I was like a kid, and they definitely were not gonna let the kid on the radio. like and then when I moved to California, for definitely for a few years, the 2011 year in particular, when we didn't have any of like the NHL packages, so I couldn't watch Canucks games unless they were playing the Sharks, because they were the only team in my area, in my broadcast area. I would listen to 1040. I believe most of the time it was Rick Ball calling the games at that point, because Shorty had moved to TV by that point.
Yeah.
But so with like Tom Larshide, or no, Larshide retired at the beginning of that year, so it would have been Dave Tomlinson. And I got actually more into it because it was kind of my window back home a little bit. It was a little slice of home that you don't always get. And I would put, when NHL TV kind of in like that same realm and everything as well, with like from the TV side of things, just having that little slice of that kind of grounds you and puts you back home for a time, especially as like a young kid who's never necessarily felt super at home in the middle of like suburban California, being able to have that little slice of where you kind of get to return home for a night, to the arena that you're most familiar with, to a team that you love, meant something. And over time I'd listen to it more and more, and like even to the point where like in like 12th grade, in my 12th grade business math class, we were allowed to have earbuds in while we were working, and I would have Sakaris and Price on while I'm getting math done, hear them talking about whether or not Evander Kane was going to end up on the Canucks at some point, after like things soured in Winnipeg. I remember that one very particularly. And it became a big reason why I wanted to get into media, because I loved listening to that show, and I was like, wouldn't it be cool to host my own show? And I'm sad I never got the opportunity to like say go in to that to the station or anything, or do like any sort of like interviews or whatever, or even just like reach out to them. Like in the same way that I wish before Botch had passed, I wish I'd made an effort to reach out and say hi, just to like even if it didn't mean anything, just to say hello. I wish I'd done more. I wish I'd made a more conscious effort, and now especially today, you're really feeling that regret of, hey, why didn't you make better effort to say hello to these people who meant so much to you over your career, over your lifetime, and even now as a reporter and everything. It's and it meant so much to the career, to like where I am now and how much I want to be doing this, and the reason we have this show, and the reason we're doing the show right now. A lot of that is due to 1040 and the fact that, and even to a certain extent 650, like they all brought it together, and it all culminated into this great market of ideas and thoughts about sports and hockey, particularly, that makes Vancouver such a unique place and such a unique city in regard into how we cover and how we enjoy sports as a community.
For sure. And like just to that point, like you can definitely tell in the way that I write about common topic hockey, like the way that like my game recaps go. It isn't like full Homer. It's just like with the voice of passion, but also like the hint of realism to be like, okay, I understand like the flaws. I can sense the good stuff, but like, here's a sense of realism, which is what that station was. And like with Botchford's passing, like it felt like that voice of like me personally like was gone, and now here it is, like almost a year later, 2 years later, and it's like just like this huge voice of like thousands of fans that are like me that just like wanted that other voice that kind of spoke to them, that let you like speak up. Like how many stations like across the world would let like a guy call in with his nickname like Bert Hutt, or Kirk the unemployed cracker factory worker,
Or a Faber from Nanaimo.
yeah, favorite, yeah. Who would have known?
Who
But
could?
like
Who could? And we still don't know who that is. We still don't know who he is.
I have an idea. I
You have a,
believe
you have a thought?
I I had this theory at one point that it was David Quadrelli, but I realized he wasn't tall enough, so it didn't make sense. But
Not old enough either.
that too. So yeah, like it's just like so great to like, this is why like I think like Twitch TV is like such a huge thing for like the younger generations, is that there's that one-to-one interaction that you don't get with like current media. And here you have TSN 1040 and like those kinds of shows that were like really like viewer based, like let's engage with this audience, like they've suffered enough through years of pain and not having the cups and like the celebrations and all that, so like they know what the fan base is going through, so why not reach out and let them be as much a part of the show as we are as hosts. And that was huge. I just posted a thing to Andy Cole, basically being like man, like the show is so funny on Fridays with you on it, and I clipped the time that I sent them a text and like broke him and Mike Halford. And unfortunately, like their podcast version misses out like him trying to do like the break read, where he's like does like, oh, here's the weather, the traffic, and the current events, and he can't get through it because he's just laughter.
Okay,
Like,
we get it. You're funny, Cody.
I'm very
Whatever.
funny, and this is all this episode's of trying to get across, is how funny I am, and you should listen to our podcast even further and all guest host jobs I do elsewhere. But is that kind of like you can't get that anywhere else? You, like 1040 was always its own thing that was like tied to the fans, and the fact that you could go in and like you could spend your morning at work listening in and then suddenly think, I'm going to try and make these guys laugh with a really stupid joke, and you could do it, and they would read it on the air even if it was so stupid no one laughed, but they still gave you the time of day. And that's great. And to see a mega corporation of Canada like basically want to just like affect their bottom dollar and their shareholder dividends, and because of that, like you don't get that one-to-one interaction or ability to be heard, like that sucks. That really sucks. And we can get into this more, but like just the way the story broke, and you heard like other hosts in Winnipeg and Hamilton were finding out from Twitter that they were getting all their doors shuttered. Like how much of a PR disaster can you have on your hands as this company that like markets itself as this pro mental health organization?
The pure hypocrisy
The
of
absolute hypocrisy of the whole
of doing the whole mental health is very important. We should have a conversation about this,
Yeah.
and we care, and we're gonna donate a bunch of money, and then to immediately turn around 2 weeks less than
like
2
it's
weeks
literally
later.
like 2 weeks to the day when it's like they give
And-
everyone half an hour to pack up their shit, their belongings, things that like mean to like, basically I think the wording that in the tweet was like, they basically said in 30 minutes corporate security is going to escort you out, so gather the meaningful belongings or mementos or whatever you have from the station and get out. Like that
Yeah.
is
cold.
For a company that like has basically spent the last, I don't know, 8 years using Bell Let's Talk as like a staple to its brand, like, oh, look at how much we care about humans and their feelings and getting everyone the proper mental health care that they deserve.
You know what really does a number on people's mental health? When you fire them without warning.
Without warning, unexpectedly. Like we talked about this earlier, like how this came out of nowhere. Like Patrick Johnson of Post Media in the province basically had like an article, like, I don't know, like 2 months ago, 3 months ago, not even, where he was basically like, the ratings for 1040 are blowing Sportsnet's stations out of the water. Like they are just crushing them, and the financials look great. All their sponsors like are super stoked with like the way things are going. So to then have like cut to today,
shut down,
just no warning, like
on a Tuesday afternoon. Tuesday morning. Jesus.
2 days before a game, or a day before a game. And I think Elliot Friedman said it on 650 as I was, driving home, because what else am I going to listen to? Elliot Friedman was basically like, the fact that they didn't even give any semblance of warning to these people is just like despicable. Like Elliot Friedman, as we know, the other day was hesitant to criticize Jim Benning on air because he didn't want to kick someone when they're down.
Although apparently today they're all in agreement, like, oh, he's gone.
Yeah, they're just like, fuck it, whatever. We gotta placate the market. But here he is on like radio, and he's just like most of the times radio stations, they don't like to acknowledge that the other one exists, and here he is being like 1040 deserved so much better than what Bell did for them. Like when you have like a mega icon of like Sportsnet Media basically being like, oh yeah, there's another station that existed, it was called 1040, and
they got
mega corporation fucked them over like you wouldn't believe, and they deserved better. Like I thought it was like surprising that Satyr Shah like even said it earlier in the morning when he was like, they deserve better, because I was like, ooh, usually they don't let you acknowledge what another station is going for.
Did work at 1040 for a while, and I believe lots of them did. And
a lot of them big, like one of the things a lot of those guys got their shots at 1040 basically and moved on from there, which is like great for them. Right. That's what the market should have, is like competing networks that can allow guys to start somewhere and move on and go back and forth as it like fits the market's needs and desires. Like that's what it should be. And now that that's gone, like that's just like, it's awful for everyone involved, basically.
Yeah, they were very adamant. Like 650 did, I think 650 did a great job at handling this today.
Yeah, like, absolutely.
Like they did a top-notch job, and again, this is not, and I wouldn't say that 650's like programming is bad or anything. It's fantastic. It's great on its own on its own accord. They did a great job handling this today. The competition, they were very clear that the competition makes everybody better, which is 100% true. Having more voices in the market makes everybody better, because everybody competes. And because everybody competes, like, and we say that like in not like a like an evil way, like in
it's
this,
like a healthy competition,
right?
Which is completely different.
Right. It's this great, it makes everybody rise to the occasion and get better. This would be a great place to do a Braden Holtby Thatcher Demko segue. But and
now goalie talk for 45 minutes.
No, not today, tomorrow. They did it makes everybody better. And one of the long running, I guess, jokes or annoyances people have is everyone's always saying, "Oh, there's too many Canucks podcasts. There's too many hundreds of them." And the fact is,
I disagree.
Yes, the amount there is in the market right now, no matter how many that is the perfect number. Yeah. It's always going to be. You add 2 more, it's still perfect. You add 500 more, it's still perfect, because that's how many. If that many people want to talk about it, that means that there's that many people who want to listen.
Dude. Like, straight up.
And we know as podcasts, like, with the exception of the rare few at the very top, that we're not competing with anything the radio guys do. We don't have their mark. We will likely never have their market. or their audience size. Some might, some definitely have the chance to, and definitely could, but right now, no. But like most of us don't. But that's not why we do it. We're doing it because some of us do it for media reasons. Some of us are just doing it to have fun.
Yeah.
And it really is such a great way. It is such a great landscape of people talking about this one very, at the end of the day, very niche, very inconsequential thing in the grand scheme of life. This is what we all want to talk about on a daily basis, and a lot of that is due to 650 or 1040 and how they made us want to be more than just fans and be more involved with a team and a sport that we all love.
Absolutely. Like, you can't tell, like, no one can ever come in and be like, oh, Vancouver has way too many people trying to make Canucks podcasts. It's like, I disagree. People create Vancouver-based or Canucks-based podcasts because there's a need for it. People want as many opinions as they can about this hockey team because there are a million different angles you can look at this team, and not everyone's ever going to agree, but hell, it's something to check into, and everyone in this market wants to see every side of their team, basically. And like a station like 1040, where, you know, you have a sardonic, cynical morning show, you have like kind of humorist based midday show with like the old guys who are just like kind of living it up in the old days, and then you have like the afternoon drive that straight up like is barely a hockey like show. It's like the global news featuring like how it pertains to like how shitty Jake Virtanen's doing. Like, there's so many different angles just in like that like 12-hour block alone, and it's like proof in the pudding. Like, you can have like our podcast where unfortunately all the bad news seems to be happening, and that's what we seem to cover.
Yeah.
And,
we'll talk more about that later, but yeah.
And then you have
anyway.
You have Faber and Quads killing it because they're like somehow in the address book of every single hockey player and prospect that's ever like, you know, laced them up. And like you have the Roxy Fever that's like the very, very political base, but like humor, like just
off the charts,
like funny. Like, there's so much goodness out there, and like
TTP doing their own radio or a radio show in their own right, in a completely but also just in a completely different way than the others do them.
Yeah,
broadcast just having the most
like
fun
a completely
doing
different take on
it's
it,
hockey,
like,
but it's also
angle.
just completely not hockey at the same time. It's like, both. There, and the list goes on. We're just mentioning the big ones right now, but we could spend another 2 hours going down the list.
But the point is,
other podcasts in this market.
That's 5 of like, you know, 500 basically of different podcasts where you can get a different take and look and view of a sports team that, you know, most markets would have you think like, oh, there's only one way to look at a sports team. It's like, nah, B, this is Vancouver and we're fucking nuts. And we're going to look at a team in a million different angles. And you're just going to have to fucking like it. And how dare you take away the one radio station that encouraged as many different angles to look at a sports team. Like, Bell Media, I am done with #Bell Let's Talk. I started out pretty heavy on Bell Let's Talk because like my sister, like she had, you know, ties to mindcheck.ca and like was really like all for like the donations and like the money raising that Bell Let's Talk did. And, you know, over the years, I've, as I'm sure you realize, have gotten very cynical over the
you're cynical. Get out of here.
Who knew, right? It's crazy.
Wow.
But I've always kind of bit my tongue and been like, you know what, whatever. If they raise some money,
the greater good, it outweighs the
greater good. Like, maybe they raise some money for like a bunch of, you know, nonprofits that otherwise wouldn't have access to these funds. Maybe they're doing some good, but like a lot of things, COVID-19 is revealing the worst in a lot of people, corporations, and companies. And so here we have this mega corporation 2 weeks, as we said, 2 weeks removed from this marketing gimmick of let's care about mental health when it couldn't be more transparent now that we're just trying to reduce how much taxable income we have at the end of the year. We want charitable donation write-offs.
And don't forget, and here's the other thing to that you shouldn't forget about these like drives and stuff. As much as they do some good, keep in mind that they could just donate that amount of money and without you doing anything.
Yeah,
The
like
only reason they're making you do something for that money is because it makes them look good. It gives them free publicity.
It's completely free. It's a free PR stunt masked as a charitable donation drive.
They could just as easily just print out one of those giant big checks, write that same amount on there without anyone having to hashtag anything or text anything, and then take a photo, tweet it once, call it a day. They could do that, but they don't because they want you to like them. They want you to like them.
Well, that was all for naught because 2 weeks later they've basically pissed off the province of British Columbia and sports fans in general. Like you can't just like axe 3 major radio programs that fans and people like across Canada are looking forward to. Like during COVID, what people look to is an escape, and a lot of people that was listening to TSN radio, whether it was in Vancouver, whether it was in Hamilton, whether it was Winnipeg. This was people's go-to. Let me listen to people shoot the shit about my local sports team for as long as possible so I could forget how shitty things are going with COVID, how long I have gone without seeing friends or seeing family or whatever. This was an escape. And for a company like Bell to basically take advantage of all these people that, donate to them in good faith using the Bell Let's Talk hashtag, to then take government funds, like taxpayer dollars, and basically line their own pockets.
What was it, $192 million in wage subsidies that they...
Yeah.
And then I believe, well, maybe not directly, but they gave shareholders some cut or something, some dividend or whatever.
So from what I read was fully. So basically what they did was they applied like any company, so my company did this. They had to report like a certain percentage decrease in profits compared to their last year's profits or net income or something like that. And so if you could prove that you had lost 20% or more, I think for us, it was we had to prove that we lost 40% or more of our profit, which we did. Then you would apply, or you would automatically qualify for the Canada's emergency wage subsidy. And so I don't know what kind of number crunching they did, but obviously they managed to prove that Bell Canada across all provinces had been missing 20% of their profits compared to the previous year. And so they had earned something like you said, 192, 212. I know there's some twos in there, millions of dollars, $192 million or some shit. And then they also get government subsidies from the Canadian government, completely aside from the emergency wage subsidies. So every year they, apply for subsidies, kind of like how oil companies always get kickbacks or whatever from taxes. So same idea, except it was into the amount of $123 million. And instead of using the emergency wage program or this $123 million subsidy, they still laid off employees across all divisions, cutting radio stations this.
These 3 stations weren't the only cuts.
No,
they
the
cut
layoffs have been happening.
I believe they cut an entire. I believe they cut an entire newsroom in Halifax. They did
Victoria's gone or something like that too.
Victoria lost a lot of people. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then some TSN people, front of the desk people, like Dan O'Toole.
Yeah, not even Natasha. Nobodies, but people that have been around and have some considerable pull, like Jay and Dan. We can get into Jay and Dan later, but I just want to finish this thought. Is that so? After taking all this money, it was then revealed that Bell had reported for 2 quarters in a row, so quarter 3 and quarter 4 of 2020, that they had posted profits. So they're taking advantage of a system while reporting that they're making money, increased amounts of money.
And
And
not even not a small amount. Like,
not a small
I
amount,
think the
a
last one
lot.
was close to $1 billion
Yes, it's not like
in
like
profit.
yeah, it's not
Like,
like
not yeah.
I found $5 on the street, so I've reported a net profit. Like no, we're talking in the excess of hundreds of millions to billions of dollars in profit for this company. And what do? They take that, they report that excess profit, and then what they did was they increased the amount of payouts on shareholder dividends. So originally, if you had a share in Bell, you would earn, $10 or whatever. And they increased that by 5.1% after taking advantage of the government and your taxpayer dollars, so that you would then make $105.10. And now keep in mind, a lot of these executives, like in the higher ups in Bell Media, they get bonus structures based on shares in the company. So ex manager or executive CEO of media relations or PR or whatever gets paid an annual sum of $600,000 a year on top of 20% shares or 200,000 shares or some shit like that. So instead of giving him a physical raise of cash that goes on his salary, he would just straight up make the money in his portfolio by 5.1% of his 200,000 shares. So basically, all I'm trying to say is, if you're a tax-paying Canadian, you basically just gave some piece of shit executive however many millions of dollars in increases in his portfolio so he could lay off your favorite fucking sports network or TV station or what have you. So fuck hashtag Bell Let's Talk. Fuck Bell Let's Talk Day. Fuck Bell Media for pulling this shit with my hard-earned taxpayer dollars that I get raked over the coals with every year. If you are as outraged as I am, you can see it in my face. I'm flushed.
Yes, if you're watching the video, version, you're getting a
flushed,
treat right now.
And like, you can't even see my pupils; they're so dilated with rage. And so if you're like me and you're just like fucking fed up with this corporate bullshit that seems to get away with it with our government, I urge you more than anything to follow me at Cody Sievertson on Twitter. And you will see a pinned tweet that shows you where you can write to your local member of parliament and you tell them how much this pisses you off and you want a full investigation into this complete scam that the executives at Bell Media are running against you with your money.
The sad part is, like, I don't even know if it's actually illegal what they did. It might.
That's the shitty thing.
Which is the shitty part. It could be perfectly legal that they did all this, but it doesn't make them any less of an assholes for taking advantage of it.
It speaks to the system that we are currently operating in, where this has been happening for years, where they've just taken advantage of subsidies so they can line their own pockets, while, of course, at the expense of the worker. And this is happening for years and decades, but now it's like it's really impacting the thing that Canadians love most, which is hockey and the way that they consume hockey content. So
it didn't matter before, but it matters now.
Nobody cared about who got laid off before, but now it fucking matters.
Now it's time to do something because my favorite show got cut. No, in all seriousness, it's not like, if this is the case, it's not like Bell is the only offender, but right now they're the big ones.
They're the ones
you should go after and hopefully stop others from being able to take advantage of this later down the road.
It's exactly like, Jake Virtanen has a bad game and he skates the puck in front of the net and he becomes target number 1 by Canucks fans. Bell is in the crosshairs right now, as they should be. This is pathetic. It's embarrassing. I don't feel good to be Canadian when I see this shit happen to people that I respect and follow in this market for my hockey coverage. And
you can also, keep going.
No, I was just gonna say, is like, it's repugnant to see this happen. And if if you're listening and you're as upset as I am, like you should be this like now is the time to not let it go quietly. You should be writing your MP and basically voicing your concern. Even if it is, like you said, this is just the way things go and the system is designed to inherently
Fuck you
support
over.
corporations, and you're just kind of like left to take it up the bum. Uh let's change that. Let's change the way this thing works. COVID-19 has brought out the worst, as I've already said, and now is the time to start instituting changes and demanding changes. We, the people, need to rise up and say, this is enough. We're done being worked over by these corporations who take advantage of us and get priority. That it's enough. I'm done. Fuck that.
Yeah. You can also make changes just in the way you spend money as well, just in the little things like if you have a Bell phone plan, cancel your Bell phone plan, go somewhere else. If you have, and I know that's easier said than done, but it does help. It does make a difference. And if they were to suddenly notice, hey, a bunch of our customers just dipped from this market right after we cut their radio station or something up or their newsroom or something else that they like. You can, if you have a cable plan with them, go to TELUS or Shaw or what have you. They're not necessarily great companies in their own right either, but but right now it's that idea of you can make the difference in the way that in your spending patterns by not shopping with that brand and that company because they decided to abuse a system to help people during a pandemic. And hey, look, doing these things probably won't bring 1040 back. It's not coming back, at least not under this, at least not in this way. It might, some other company might see the hole in the market, come in and start their own version of team on a completely different part of the dial. That might be a possibility. Honestly, I'm surprised they didn't even try and sell it. But whatever. Anyway,
before just shutting it down altogether. That's like a whole other thing.
That's a whole other thing. And we talked really briefly about the whole get out in 30 minutes thing. But Justin Morissette even made the mention of the amount of things that are probably in there that you cannot that are irreplaceable that you can't just pull out of a building in 30 minutes is crazy. And probably who knows if Bell's just gonna walk in and be like, all right, toss this all in the garbage. But
hey, they might
but at the very least, it does make an impact on proving to these big corporations that you're not just gonna you're not gonna take this quietly, and you're not gonna roll over when they do something like this.
Yeah.
And sports radio station might be small in the grand scheme of things, but it does matter to you. But it matters to you, and it matters. So hopefully you take the time.
If it matters to your mental health, then it matters straight up. If you say that doing a puzzle for an hour a day is good for your mental health, then hell yeah, then puzzles are your thing. If sports radio, that's good for your mental health during COVID-19, hell yeah, power to you. That's your thing. You shouldn't be fucking with that. We haven't even talked about the fact that they fucking played them out with goddamn Good Riddance by fucking Green Day.
So if you haven't heard the clip where they can the whole station again, we also didn't even go over the fact of, hey, this station's been on for 20 years and they didn't even get a goodbye. They literally were just like, okay, we're canceling midday, goodbye, never come back. We hate you all. This is they did not give any of the hosts a goodbye. No, not even close.
These guys who've been on the radio for 20 years or some shit, they didn't even get a chance to say goodbye. Donnie and the Moj, their goodbye was on an Instagram story. That's Jason Bruff. His goodbye was in front of his shower curtain of cats. These dudes deserve so much better than basically having their show stolen from under them.
They had a schedule posted. They had a schedule for next week already. Yeah. They had guests lined up for shows later today. That didn't happen.
As it was reported, on Twitter, it it wasn't just that like they sent an email to 1040 and said, "Hey, we need you to turn off your programming." They took control from Toronto and turned off their Facebook stream, and then played that automated message that said, we're gonna have some changes and announcements coming soon at 9:30. This was like unavoidable due to COVID, which is
This is
fucking
media
horseshit.
This is the landscape of the media's
Yeah, like,
fault.
fuck
And
off.
also, and like, if you haven't heard it, do yourself a favor and don't.
Yeah.
It's very eerie,
Yeah.
creepy.
Don't,
Very
but at
creepy.
the same time, yeah, don't, but at the same time, you need to hear it just to know how
Ugh.
cold and callous this entire thing was. They didn't
was
even
n-
hire someone to say the announcement to these employees who've been working at the station for, I think McCletch said he'd been there for 15 years. Like, just the audacity to not even give people the one-to-one or personal shit, like heads up that your job is done, but you have half an hour to get your shit out or corporate security is going to take you out. And then as they're playing this audio over the station as it closes for like the final time before it becomes fucking Comedy Network Part 2, they play Green Day's Good Riddance. Like,
Yeah,
someone
nope, that's not a
surely-
joke. That's real. That's very real. They played the I think they see, I'm thinking they're stupid and thought the title was Time of Your Life, which it's
Which
not.
is not
it's
true.
called Good Riddance, which
Yes.
is a terrible, out of all the songs you could have played, that is the worst. That's got to be one of the worst fucking ways to play out a station, to play out a radio station that has served people for 20 years.
Like, we made
Jesus.
we make the joke in Vancouver all the time that it's the Toronto Sports Network, and this was like the only thing that could have made this worse is if they played that Leafs song, the Go Leafs Go, like whatever song,
Yeah.
the Leafs rock song.
Leafs are the best song.
Leafs are
yeah.
the best, like that song,
Yeah.
or straight up they played the goal horn and then fucking Hall & Oates, You Make My Dreams Come True. Like,
Yeah.
you might as well have played the Toronto goal song as like a fuck you, we don't care about your feelings, we don't care what you think. Which, like, I heard that song and I was like, have these people never listened to the song before? They heard it at their kids' graduation and were like, oh, it's a feel-good song to make you, I don't know, happy for what you got or something. Like, someone missed the entire message and missed the song title and just basically just raised two middle fingers to every person in the sports media landscape and just said, fuck you, we don't care. See ya.
Yeah. Not even like you could have played them out on like you could have literally played it out on a sizzle reel of all the best moments in the station's
Didn't even give him
history.
that
If you-
opportunity. Like,
Nothing.
It's
Give
so
him nothing.
disrespectful, and like my
And-
heart goes out to the
Yeah.
morning guys who basically had their show stolen from under them and didn't get a chance to say goodbye basically, and are left to doing it on their own. Because if anyone had noticed, we're in the middle of a pandemic, so you can't just like get fired and then go out to like a bar with everyone from the company and have a beer together and lament your losses together. You can't. You have to be with your bubble in a public place like a bar, and it's like two people maximum only. So you
Some of
can't
those
even
colleagues-
like lament.
Some of those colleagues have probably barely seen each other in over a year,
Yeah.
in almost a year now. Like,
And it's just
that's
gone like that. Like that's
yeah.
it's genuinely
gone-
awful. It's so my heart goes out to all those hardworking dudes, and like the guys that like just came over to, like, you have Rob Fay, who, you know, made the jump from Sportsnet to 1040 because he wanted a better shot on the late night show.
And he was
coming in,
crushing it of
He's
late.
fucking crushing it this week with his promos and his like fire bending shit and like Aquilini, get your shit together. Like, holy crap, he was so good this week. You have
he came in on
Rick-
Saturday and did a Saturday show too,
Yeah,
and
like-
everything.
The guy's just
Which is
putting
not his
in
schedule.
work to make it happen for himself and his brand and like his
And
show.
for the people.
And for the people. And then you have like other people like Chantel Chand, who's literally just got an all-female program on TSN,
home
like
stretch, yeah.
within like the last 2 weeks or something like that. Like,
and Anissa Hetherington, I think, is
yes,
the other
and
co-host name.
and that was like what, 2 weeks ago. So like they just got their feet under them and are starting to get going, and it's just like it's so tone deaf for this
I
corporation to basically just be like, hey, all these progressive things that you as individuals are trying to do in sports, not even just for Vancouver, but sports in general, like to have like an all-female program, or like a guy who's cutting WrestleMania promos like late night, while and his whole shtick is just like a one-man show. Like, you can't just be like, here's Good Riddance by Green Day. Fuck you for everything you were trying.
Yeah, and all the people who have left, who have been on that station before this, who've left and
Yes.
gone on to do other great things,
Who are
to
literally
not
on
even
TV now.
mention them. Yeah, like, and
Thaddeus Shaw
yeah,
is just like a
I bel
Sportsnet personality on TV. The
the
Silver
founder,
himself. Like, come on.
the founder of 1040, I believe, is the late Paul Carson. I
Yes.
believe he who also founded another sports institution in Vancouver, Sports Page. He was a big part of that,
Yeah.
which another program that I just loved, and
Yeah,
wish there
Sports
were
Page is
more.
great.
I wish there were more clips of it on YouTube. There's not enough of them.
Yeah.
Somebody's got them. Somebody's got all of those recorded on VHS and hasn't digitized them yet.
So, also, just side note before you finish your thought, anyone who's listening to this and has podcasts saved of like the Halford and Bruff show or Donnie and the Moj or whatever, save all that shit, because God forbid Bell Media goes through and starts deleting all the records of these podcasts and these audio files, because I wouldn't put it past them to do it. They deleted their Twitter page like within 5 or 10 minutes of the announcement. Like, they were just like, it's gone, 1040 doesn't exist. So a part of me is like, they better not even think of touching the Patcast, like the OG Patcast with
Oh man, I didn't even think of that.
J-Pad and Botch. If they do, like, I don't know if they have control of that. I hope they don't. But oh man, if you delete shit too,
that might have been a Vancouver Sun officially.
Oh,
That might
like
have
a
been
province thing, maybe.
That might have been, yeah, or say that's what. Yeah,
It might be
that
right, yeah.
might have been a province program, so they might not have that
Right.
that pull there.
Let's cross our fingers. I just know that I tried to search. I think I tried to search 1040 like podcasts or something like that, and it only went back so far. So save what you got.
Oh, it is
kids.
it is the 1040 podcast. It's still there. It is still there.
So yeah,
at least for now.
if you can, someone who's a tech whiz, rip that shit before it's
Yeah.
gone forever, dudes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I guess the question now becomes how does this affect the future? Because now with 1040 gone, there's a huge hole in the market now for people, because lots of people will migrate over to 650 now. Will migrate, and that this is, I'm sure, if you ask anyone at 650, this is not the way they wanted people to come to their channel, come to their station at all.
Not.
This is the worst. This is the worst possible circumstance that they could get a ratings boost under. But some people might not want to go, might not be interested in going that direction for whatever reason. Yeah. And I guess it comes down, and podcasts are a lot of that. And I think I definitely ask myself the question today, like, what am I going to do about it? Like, what am I going to do about this? And how am I going to help people through this? Not like, and this is like just simply in the aspect of, we're lucky enough that we have this platform. I've mentioned this many times with different topics before, that I feel very lucky and fortunate that even no matter how small our platform, the CreaseCast, is as a platform, I'm really happy that I have it, and that I'm able to kind of do good and use it for good, and use it for the ability to not just talk about my hockey takes, but about other stuff in culture and life that goes on when needed and when called upon.
Yeah.
And right now, in a weird way, we are almost called upon to talk about sports. Some people, like yourself, if you're listening to this might be your first time listening to us because 1040 disappeared, and you need a new Wednesday morning drive show or Saturday morning listening or what have you, if you're coming to us. And I guess the question now becomes, like, what can we and other podcasts in the market for that matter, be doing to help fill that void for not just for ourselves, clearly not just for ourselves, but for the people who need a new voice and want something new to listen to every day and something to get them through the days.
Well, I think the market kind of already had like the right idea for the last like few months. Like you're seeing a lot of different podcasts, like ours included, like kind of like spearheading the upward lift movement, as I'd like to call it, where everyone's kind of putting each other out on a pedestal. At like every like Canucks conversation, like Chris Faber
Been a
has
champion of
no
our show.
reason, has absolutely no reason to retweet our posts or comment on what we're doing, but he's done it twice, and like that's huge for a small podcast like us. You have the broadcast going out and finding like these guys with like 1,200 followers or like 120 followers on their podcast and putting them on a pedestal. Like that's what I hope to see moving forward, is like this community just kind of bands together to be like, we're not going to be silenced. We're going to try to put out as much good content as we possibly can, especially in the wake of this content machine that was TSN 1040 being stolen away from us.
Yeah.
And
none of us are in competition with each other. This is not a competition.
Everyone's stoked to see everyone have success. That's why it was so awesome to see Chris Faber like end up on 1040 like broadcasts. That's why it was so great to see like Quads doing like nighttime casts with Rob Fay. Like everyone wants to see like these up and comers like succeed and see their hard work pay off, basically. So
yeah,
if
we're
everyone
all rooting for one another to be we're all rooting for one another to see all of us succeed together. We're all,
absolutely
like, and newcomers who we don't know. Like we want to see them come in, and we want to see new people get their voice out there and do what we can. And I say that in the general way. And like everybody is so supportive of one another in this city and in this sports market, and I'm thrilled about that. Like I didn't think I'd be here. Like if you had told me when I started writing 6 years ago that I was going to be back in Vancouver doing this kind of stuff, I wouldn't have believed you. But and I'm so happy, but I'm so happy that I am here and able to take a much bigger part of what's going on in this city with and being able to give these opinions and talk about hockey and try and help build this community and make it even stronger every year.
Oh yeah, dude. I'm glad to be there for the ride with you, man. Like this community has been really strong together. COVID-19's been like brutal on everybody personally, and to just know that the community abroad is, trying to lift each other up during these hard times to get each other opportunities. That's great. We'll lick our wounds after this. Like, fortunately, like unlike a lot of these poor guys across the TSN radio networks who lost their jobs of over 20 years, we're still kicking and we're still here to support each other, and we're going to support them and whatever ventures that these guys find themselves in next. Like, I know wherever Halford and Brough end up, like I'm going to be in line waiting for that first show or whatever the fuck they do. I don't even care where it is. It can be on that parlor shit for all I care. I need me some Simpsons references and comedy. I don't care. But you just gotta be grateful for what you got. And it looks like a lot of these guys got to live out their dream, and they're saying as much in their goodbye messages. You wish they were given the actual opportunity to say goodbye a proper way and not get railroaded the way they were by Bell Media. So
yeah, and I can't speak for, and as far as we're concerned right here on our show, I can't speak. Obviously, we can't speak for what other shows plan to do. They're all going to go off in their own different directions, but. And I know we mentioned, and you mentioned right off the top of the show that this is our 10th episode together, you and I, like our 10th main episode, I believe.
Yeah.
Which is cool monument. We've done this a whole month. The show has been, last month we hit a record in listens for a year. So thank you to everyone who's been listening.
Yeah. Everyone who's listening, we really appreciate that shit.
Yeah. Yeah, we recently hit like a good milestone on the subscribers on our YouTube channel. Our Patreon is starting to kick up a little bit, which is nice. But it's been all the news that we've been talking about has been kind of a bummer for the most part because the Canucks
just a bit.
There's the Canucks haven't been good. There's just the whole other aspect of it. But so I'll say this: I can't promise too much of what we're gonna be doing, but I wanna. And Cody, I haven't run this by you necessarily, but I feel like I can promise with all certainty that we're gonna try and make this show going forward as fun as we can. I want to,
at the very
even
least,
if we're talking about bummer topics,
yeah,
we're going to do our absolute best to make the show fun and entertaining and make you guys want to tune in and make us part of your routine every week that maybe was filled by by a 1040 show if we can. To help you guys and to kind of help everybody get through it and to just, because this is what we love to do. And hopefully you'll stick around with us and what we're trying to do around here. And we hope we can help reward you in the same way that 1040 did for so many years.
Well put. Why don't we get into some hockey news and some Canucks news the only way we know how, and the only way that Bell Media would let us talk about news this way.
100%.
All right, guys. As always, you can follow me at Cody Sievertson on Twitter. You can follow Lachlan Irvine at Lach and the Crease on Twitter as well. Follow us on the Patreon at the CreaseCast. We are sorry that we're dishing out so much bad news, but we're, like we said in the closer of this episode, we're going to be pumping out some good content. We're going to try and make it as fun as possible, try to have some fun in the dark times, and we're glad that you guys are with us. As always, subscribe, on your YouTube channel, on whatever podcast platform you use, Podbean or Apple Podcast, Spotify. I don't give a shit what it is. Rate, like, and subscribe, and we'll catch you guys on the next time CreaseCast, which should be coming out on Thursday. We're going to be recording a Patreon episode that we might actually give out for free to you fellas and ladies out there. And then we'll be recording on Friday as well for the post game, game 1 of 4 against Calgary. Until then, guys.
This was such a bummer. We had to split the NHL stuff to tomorrow. We will have more NHL.
It didn't feel right. Straight up, it just didn't feel right.
Today is a 10:40 only day, and then we'll be back to your normal fun to try and give you some normalcy tomorrow.
Yeah, dudes. We will see you guys then. Much appreciated from your favorite obscure podcast. Thanks for listening, Faber, and we will catch you guys next time.
Bye, guys.
Bye.